actually, before I entered the service, I graduated high school. I graduated, I actually joined the Navy in February of 1967, graduated high school then in June of 67, and then actually was actually joined into the Navy at that point.
Actually, I was working at an ice cream plant in Waukesha, Wisconsin, Hawthorne Melody Dairy. It was a good job, and ice cream, what can I say? Plus I was going to school for business classes, and hunting and fishing and working on cars, especially my own car, and enjoying life and having fun.
I guess I've grown up in a military household per se. My dad was in the Ranger Battalion around the 80s. My uncle was in the 82nd Airborne during Gulf War. I had many great grandparents fight in World War II. So just kind of naturally just kind of got brought into kind of a military family.
I was in high school. I was just like you, although a year older. I waited until my senior year. I was an athlete, and I was in a situation where I really needed help. I knew I wanted to go to college, and I needed a way to pay for it. So I kind of wanted to do it, or wait to see if I was offered scholarship money through sports. But honestly, I think even if I had, in hindsight, I think I still would have enlisted, just because I had a desire to serve.
I just had graduated high school and was entered at used to be Waukesha County Technical Institute in Pewaukee. I signed up for surgical tech program. I wanted to be an surgeon, but I lived here. My parents didn't have any money. They didn't really know how to go about. They didn't even have a high school diploma, either of them. And I was very academically good at school, and then I thought, well, I'm going to go to school, and I didn't know how to go around about it, so I went to WCTC and signed up for that surgery because I wanted to be a surgeon, a surgical tech. And so I was in there, and then
When I graduated from high school in Milwaukee at Don Bosco, the draft was drafting people for the Vietnam War, and everyone had gotten a draft number when they turned 18. And I think my number was 160 something or other. And I knew that I had probably about a year before my number would be coming up. So my mother says, well, you better get a job. And so actually she found me a job from a friend of hers that she had gone to school with. And I ended up working at Safeway Steel, which is a scaffolding company in Milwaukee. And by the time that year was just about up, I could see that my numbers were getting closer. And I thought, well, if I don't do something in the next, make a commitment of some sort in the next couple of months, then I'm going to be drafted. I did not want to be drafted. I wanted to enlist.
Before I entered the service, I was actually still in high school when I entered the service. I spent a year in delayed entrance, waiting to actually go into the military. During that time, I worked with the recruiting office, did different jobs on the weekends, but I was actually working for Lamplight Farms, putting together oil lamps on the assembly line, waiting. It was actually my job I was doing through the high school program.
Cool. Yeah.
So
Before I went into the Marine Corps, I worked at a company called the Allen Bradley Company in Milwaukee. And I worked there for a little over a year and some months before I decided that I wanted to go into the Marine Corps.
Well, I was in high school, and I was 17 years old, and just the time when I was in the draft list as classified A1, which means that I would go into the service anytime after I graduated. And I thought, you know what I would really like to do is volunteer. My uncle, John, was in the military, and I really felt that I wanted to serve. And so we were in the band. We found out that there were openings in the band, and about 12 of us from the band all were graduating, and we wanted to serve and go in, and we did. So we all signed up and went in together.
I was going to high school and I was actually working part-time at a grocery store. And then 2 weeks after I got out of high school, because the draft was going on, I just felt, without telling my parents, I went down to the enlist for 3 years in the Army, and everybody's kind of shocked that I did that, but I just felt it felt kind of obligated, and truthfully, I figured, well, I get it out of the way while I'm still young. As it turns out, I just turned 21 when I got out, so it was perfect how it worked out for me.
The biggest shock was probably just, basic training and trying to adapt, and, you get up at a certain time, you eat at a certain time, you have to do PT, physical training, nonstop.
Yeah.
So, it was hard, but you had a battle buddy that you were kind of paired up with, and we tried to keep each other sane.
Yes.
At one time, we had a 3-room apartment, and other times we would just, depending on who was working and who had to go home and stuff. And then if I'd end up alone, and I'd have just a room by myself. But it was nice.
I would like them, to learn about it. If you go into a history book, there's maybe one page on the Vietnam War. When the Vietnam servicemen came home, there was nothing. There was no how you doing, and I joined the American Legion for a while, and there was about 10 of us vets there, and we were the underlings, because at the time it was all World War II and the Korean vets, and they had the major portion of the hall, and we had this little room in back. So I mean, we were these underling people, and to be able to tell the future generation that this war did happen, and your uncles and dads and older brothers or whatever, I mean, not older brothers, but uncles, dads, and our moms in this case also served there, and they served with a pride, and to look up to them, and and to be able to ask them questions, how the war was. But otherwise, right now there really isn't anything about the war there.
90 some days. So so when January 11th was when it started. So I was on the ship for like a month, and then the sirens went off, and then it said, we are declared war. We're at war, all quarters. And so then that's when casualties started. Once the Marines went in, then the
Guys had to prepare.
casualties, because so then the operating room got busy because we had brought stuff. The helicopters were unloading,
I think the most important thing I could say, as of today, right now, these numbers are real close. There's 1,300,000 men and women serving all over the United States and all over the world, and their mission is all the same: protect our freedom. How the military can be that coordinated and organized for all the different branches, and now we got a Space Force, but it's like, when you think of the military, you think of the veterans, think of all the people past and present that sacrificed to protect our freedom. When you think of it like that, or when you look at the flag, it makes freedom special, and freedom is very special. So don't take it for granted.
some friends, we went skiing and didn't know where we were going, but ended up skiing down the wrong side of the mountain. We started out in Germany and ended up in Austria and didn't quite realize it. And it was a little bit of a challenge to find our way back.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that really I've taken out of the military service and the police service, I think, is the relationships you build, with people throughout your career. I can kind of go anywhere in the United States, and I'll know someone that I've worked with, served with, or whatever, and everyone's usually like, hey, stop by, you can spend the night, we can meet up for whatever. So I think the relationships you build, I'll run into people on the military side that I haven't seen in like 10 years. But you always have those experiences and relationships that you've developed, over the course of years that don't go away. I think for me, that's probably the biggest thing is the relationships you've built with people.
Being miserable is a mindset. If you wake up and you're having a bad day, or if you think that you have to go walking through this area and it's going to be mud and you're going to be miserable and you're going to be cold, then you've adopted a poor mindset. I mean, truly, one of the most positive things about the military for me is adopting a mindset of positivity. Yeah, you can make an excuse to be miserable at any given point in time. But if you're like, yeah, it's going to be cold and it's going to be wet, I'm going to have fun with this. There's all manner of things that I would do to not be miserable. So for example, one time it was cold and rainy and we had to work in it. And this is before I was a sergeant, so I didn't have to be responsible. But I communicated with my sergeant and I said, hey, it's going to be terrible today, the weather. I said, would you be upset if at the end we go into that mud and we wrestle? Okay, and he didn't care. So there was a group of us who all wrestled in high school. Well, guess what? We went and got really dirty, and I'm just going to say that I dominated in the mud pit. So I was the king when we did it, and you do little things like that that are actually kind of fun. I wouldn't want to do it now, but it was fun in the moment.
Yeah. Here's one of the coolest things: our gas mask. So and inside there's a little straw. So I don't know, you probably don't want any ears, but that's how you actually drink. So during the gas, it comes out, you pull it out here, and there's a straw in there. Wow. Oh. So that's how you actually during biological warfare, and I got a whole gear that goes with that. But
I remember the first time we got to bathe. We were there a month, and we went out on a patrol one day, and we were crossing this stream, and it was just a little stream, but the water was very clear, and it stopped raining. It got real bright out. It didn't get sunny, but it was bright. Mm-hmm. And our leader said, let's take this out. Let's everybody, half of you guys get in the river and take a bath. Mm-hmm. And the other half has to stand watch. Mm-hmm. And then we reversed.
Some of the life lessons, I guess, are, don't forget the people that helped you along the way. Even though, like, sometimes you might not talk to them for a while, still pick up the phone and call them. Yeah. Just call them. I'm fortunate enough to have a lot of friends like that, even friends I went to high school with, friends from the military, That's probably one of the biggest ones.
What life lessons? Discipline is important.
Yeah, the big one.
Honesty, trust, mm-hmm. being truthful. Discipline for me is still a big thing. Mm-hmm. My husband can attest to that. Other than that, I just keep trying to train people and teach people, and mm-hmm. I think that's important.
Yeah.
The life lessons. It's 90% mental and 10% physical. It all is up here okay? Everything that you think you can do, you can. Everything that you think you can't do, if you think you can't do it, you're not going to be able to do it. All right? As you're a young person, I'm quite a few years older than you. There are things that I could do at your age that I can no longer do at my age. And having to accept that is at times difficult, because when I look in that mirror, I still see that 18-year-old, and sometimes I wonder, who the heck is that guy in the mirror? But that's just part of growing older. So the military allowed me to become the person that I am, and allowed me to learn how to focus, how to do different items, how to get to my end game, how to reach out there and get that.
Like I say, I joined when I was 17, and I thought I was a tough guy, Well, they proved that right away that I wasn't. And then there were rules, of course, to be followed, and I thought I didn't have to do those. And there were people that, again, took hold of me. And one master sergeant caught me. He says, "Did you shave today?" I said, "No, sir, I don't have to shave," because I'm blonde, could not even see it. He says, "Go in your barracks and get your razor, those old Gillette razors." And I went and got it, brought it back. He says, "Okay, now shave." And I had to shave. That's something I learned. I was very humble with this guy after that. It's a dry shave and it hurts.
Oh,
But he turned into one of my best friends,
wow.
surprisingly.
Well, again, like I've been saying, just kind of working with people in general,
Yeah.
and trying to be respectful of, I don't care if you're black, white, or purple, or red. I mean,
Yeah.
I could care less if you're black or white. If you're a good person, I'm going to be good to you, and I learned that right away in the service.
Well, I mentioned the discipline.
Yeah.
I think also staying awake almost all the time was a real challenge. But I really appreciated the spirit of patriotism. When I joined, I wanted to serve. And I was talking to a fellow veteran just today at where I'm living, and he said, when he joined too, it wasn't for any personal gain or money. You don't get rich in the military. It was a sense of serving.
I have to thank the Bell Tower Memorial staff and the people, the teachers, the students, to make this possible. This is an honor for me to be here, and I hope I represent the Army well. And thank you so much. I just can't thank you enough. And thank you, Ellie, my granddaughter.